Hey, peeps! What is up? How are you all? I hope everybody is well. If you're not, sorry to hear it. Thank you for listening, tuning in. Yeah, this fella right here. This is the cult of Hoeberger, or the Hoebergers if you prefer, or the Pro-burgers if you prefer. They are a cult, and they have found a new leader, a new hero to take them to the promised land. And that hero or new leader, new cult leader, is Dr. Brent D. Turvey. He is making the rounds. Just want to purvey this maxim: woe the country that needeth a hero, or woe the people who needeth a hero. That was Galileo. Actually, I don't really think it was Galileo. I think Bertolt Brecht. Brecht had a play about it, and that was a line in the play where Galileo says, "Woe the country that needeth a hero." So, if you need a hero or you need a leader, you're pretty pathetic. You're pretty pathetic as a people. You're pretty pathetic as a person. Because, truth be told, there really aren't any heroes. There are heroic acts for sure. But heroes, no. People are too flawed to be heroes. It's just people are too flawed. They might do something magnanimous in one instance and then do something horrible in another instance. That could be the same person. It's just they're too flawed. People are liars. People are opportunists. It's just the way life is. Sorry to say it, folks. It's the way life is. I think most of you know that. It's the way life is. I don't think this guy's any different. The things we will do to survive. I mean, look at all these content creators. Look at what they will do to survive. Anything. Quite literally anything. They'd sell their children. They're selling themselves. They're, prostitutes to their audience pretty much. Yeah, they're grifters, but they're prostitutes too. Think about it. They're captive to their audiences. They have to give their audiences what their audiences want. Now, if you recollect, that's something I was not going to do. That's one of many reasons I just ultimately just extracted myself from all of it. It was like, I will not be held captive by an audience. They're not going to tell me what I should think or feel, or, whether I should analyze something from their perspective versus another perspective. I'm going to follow the cookie crumbs where they lead. You don't like it? Tough shit. I'm not catering to an audience to survive. Or for some extra vacation dollars, like a number of these content creators are doing. They're prostitutes. They are prostitutes. So anyway, this is their latest hero, as you can see here. I remember over a year ago when I extracted myself from all this, I don't remember any custody queens off the clock. They've jumped into the fray, as have a bunch of other content creators, it looks like. They've all come out of the woodwork of feasting. They're feasting upon this. It's a feast. And it's just one ginormous echo chamber at this point. Just a absolutely ginormous circle jerk. And it is a circle jerk. These people will not listen to reason. You can't break in. You cannot break in. And I guess there's nothing to break into anyway. There's nothing up top except for a brainstem. When you look at these comments, it's like, who are these people? Once again, who are they? What kind of existence must they live? Outside of virtual world, probably nothing. They're all just, that's their existence, is here in virtual world. They don't have any existence outside of that. Bunch of praise in here for Turvey. So these custody queens off the clock like everyone else, is just biting off of Donna Rotunno's interview with Turvey. And, for likes and subscriptions and revenue and profit. Like I said, what people will do to survive. It's a horrible system, you have to admit. Civilization is a horrible system. The things we do to survive. The things we will lower ourselves to do to survive. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing. It is. But rest assured, none of these people are interested in the truth, okay? So this latest hero. Remember the heroes before this were Ann Taylor and Cy Ray. They were the big heroes. Forever, they were the big heroes. I remember if I said anything negative about Ann Taylor, they would jump down my freaking throat. Oh my goodness. She was a hero. And now they've kicked her to the curb. And the same went with Cy Ray. Remember? They all loved Cy Ray. Oh my God, they all loved him. And now, kicked him to the curb. He's not a hero anymore. It will be no different, mark my words, with this guy Brent Turvey. I assure you, it will be no different. Not that any of these people care like Cy Ray or Turvey. They're hacks. Okay, they are hacks. That's what that's what I said. What people will do to survive. What people will do to get money. They'll do anything. This guy Brent Turvey's no different. They'll do anything. They will sell their bodies to the night. Roxanne, you don't gotta put on the red light. You don't gotta sell your body to the night. I mean, they're selling their body to the night. They are. Brent Turvey's no different here. So, let's take a look at their latest hero. I'm sorry, I had to point this out, but we got to look at their latest hero. And not that any of this is going to matter to them. They don't care. It's just whatever he says right now is all that matters. That's all that matters. But rest assured, hero today, traitor tomorrow. And I would say probably always a traitor, but they're grasping for heroes right now. They always are. So this guy, Brent Turvey. So here's a synopsis of his CV. Okay, you can go get the PDF, but here's a synopsis of it. So it says primarily Dr. Brent Turvey works major case. This is defined by most law enforcement agencies as any investigation involving death, sexual violence, or multiple victimization. However, it is also a reference to crimes requiring significant investigative effort, multi-jurisdictional coordination, or intense public interest, which of course the Idaho 4 case fits that bill. Since 1996, Dr. Turvey has performed casework as a forensic scientist, crime scene analyst, crime reconstructionist, forensic criminologist, and/or criminal profiler for law enforcement agencies, police and prosecutors, attorney clients, and government NGOs all over the world. This includes case consultations, forensic assessments, investigative and forensic protocol development, teaching, and expert testimony in both criminal and civil matters. Dr. Turvey's casework tends to involve sexual assault, false allegations, shooting incident reconstructions, serial rapes, and serial homicides, mass homicides, 3+ victims, sexual homicides, aka femicides, domestic homicides, staged crime scenes, human trafficking, racial profiling, and other violent crime-related issues. Currently, this one I love. Currently, Dr. Turvey is also the senior forensic advisor to the Dubai Police Criminal Profiling Unit, housed within their Department of Forensic Science and Criminology located in Dubai in the UAE. So does that mean he's living there currently? You kind of could draw that conclusion from that. In Dubai, the shithole that's Dubai. And I'm sorry, Dubai is a disgusting abomination. It's something that never should have existed. It's something that shouldn't exist. It is filth. Dubai is filled with filthy creeps. Okay? So, and this guy's, I get just proud to be associated with that. So I was wrong about this guy. I thought he was just basically a defense expert. He's not. He's whatever he has to be. When I dive deep into this, he's a hack. He's whatever he's got to be. He'll do whatever he has to do to earn a buck. Whatever he has to do. You know, a lot of people say that, well, I can't say as a blame him. Yes, I could. I could blame him. I'm not doing that. I'm not turning tricks for a buck. I'm not a prostitute. But I want you to pay attention to all this right here, because this paragraph is effectively, to me, saying I'm biased. And he was biased when he came into this investigation. Okay? He's biased by this. This is his shtick. So he's biased by it. And I apply it to what he says in the article about his analysis of the crime scene, or part of his analysis of the crime scene, as you'll see. Everybody's biased, folks. Everybody's biased. Ray's biased. This guy's biased. Okay? I'm not saying right here he's biased one way or another towards the prosecution or the defense. He's biased as to how he evaluates a crime scene. I mean, he's already got it in his mind. He's looking for it to be staged. He's looking for it to be a sexual crime. You know, if you go in there looking for that, you're biased, and you know what? You're probably going to find it. Not that it's true what you found, but you're going to believe it's true that you found it. Okay, so you got to go in clean. Don't have any bias like that. Go in clean. Don't go in there thinking, I'm going to look for some sexual, look for things within the crime scene. You're going to tell me this is a sex crime. Instead of just evaluating the crime scene on the face of it for what it is. I mean, for what it reveals. And then draw a conclusion after you've done all that evaluation. I can guarantee you he's biased. Anyway, Dubai. This guy's associated with the Dubai Police Criminal Profiling Unit. Now, Dubai, like I said, is an abomination. It really is. It's a haven for the wealthy elite, for disgusting wealthy scumbags who have more money than they could ever spend. And it's a destination for all manner of criminals. It's a safe haven for criminals. It has a reputation as being that. Now, lately, within the last couple of years, their public relations marketing advertisers have been trying to influence on the internet that reputation, but I'm not fooled. I'm not fooled at all. They are still as much a haven for criminals, despite a few that they extradited. They are still a criminal haven for criminals. So, well, how do you know that? Well, let's look at here. 60 Minutes has been all over this, Australia. 60 Minutes Australia is actually pretty good. It's very different than America now.
The police in Dubai want the world to think they're doing a great job. So much so, a few years ago, they created this action-packed video showing their SWAT team on the tail of two of Australia's biggest alleged drug lords. Watching this dramatic vision of their arrest, you'd think alleged crooks aren't welcome in Dubai. But, as you're about to see, that couldn't be further from the truth. Tonight, how Dubai became a safe haven for some of Australia's most dangerous suspected criminals.
These are people right at the top of the tree.
The baddest of the bad.
The baddest of the bad.
We take you inside a global investigation, exposing Dubai's luxury real estate market as a dumping ground for the dirty money of the criminal elite.
Do you ask where they have their money from?
Don't ask.
Because
it's not our concern, such as our concern is just what you want to know.
From villas on the water to apartments in the sky, the biggest ever leak of Dubai property data leads us straight to the luxurious compounds of Australian crime figures who've made the city their home away from home.
Public enemy number one sorts of criminals are able to operate there with a high degree of impunity in a way that you don't see anywhere else in the world.
There you go. So Dubai, yeah. Not a good thing. I'm sorry. It's disgusting. Dubai is disgusting. Filth. Absolute filth. Never should have existed. Never. Well, anyway, so Brent Turvey, as everybody knows, he came to the Brian Hoeberger defense team pretty late in the game, it seemed like, because it was 2024 when he came. So it wasn't immediately. So it was 2024, and it was late in 2024. That's when they had him sign that confidentiality agreement. So, but as we all know, he's come out lately and started yapping about all manner of things, despite what he was hired to do. And so, you know, Ann Taylor is pissed off and has said that he's broken a confidentiality agreement. Now, I think there would be legal recourse here if they were wanting to pursue that, you would think. I mean, what's the point of having people sign confidentiality agreements if you're not going to enforce it, right? Do something about it, Ann. Do something about it. So he came out and he started talking to the press. This was 4 months ago. Okay, the dating and timing here is very important. 4 months ago, so in April. So Ann came out with this to Brent Turvey breaking the confidentiality agreement. So Brian Enton says, Brian Hoeberger's attorney, Ann Taylor, is not happy their defense witness, Dr. Brent Turvey, has been talking. This is the first statement I can remember Ann Taylor ever releasing. So Ann Taylor says here, dated April 28, 2026, for her office. We write regarding the recent statements made by Brent Turvey. He was an expert hired by the defense late in the case. Yes, late in the case. His confidentiality agreement was signed October 30th, 2024, and continues to this day. The agreement with Mr. Turvey was crystal clear that all materials, as well as any opinions that he developed as an expert, were to be kept confidential. Mr. Turvey was reminded when the court lifted the non-dissemination order, the duty of confidentiality continued until he was released from it by the defense. In his role as an expert, Mr. Turvey was asked solely to provide an opinion about the crime scene, nothing else. As such, he had access to view some items related to the case. He was one of many experts relied upon by the defense team in this case. Mr. Turvey has not been released from his confidentiality agreement and is now speaking about topics that are still confidential, many of which are outside of his areas of expertise. The defense team is appalled by Mr. Turvey's behavior and his release of documents and information that he knows are confidential. It is the opinion of the defense team that Mr. Turvey's conduct falls outside of the ethical and legal norms that are applied to experts in criminal cases, and his reliability should be seen through the lens of this conduct. So, I mean, you would think that this is not good for his career, but you know as well as I do, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, really. It doesn't. It's not going to matter. He'll get work anywhere. And why? Well, because who will hire him wants to hire him to do and say what they want him to do and say. And he'll do that. He'll do it. He'll do it. So as long as he's willing to do that, they'll hire him. It doesn't matter about his reputation. Whether he's a person of integrity or not, doesn't matter. But this is an issue of integrity, actually. Now, he's bringing up stuff now, right now. I mean, Ann Taylor has grounds here, I think, to go after him. Legal grounds to go after him. After what he said on this interview with Donna Rotuno over here. After what he said in this interview about Ann Taylor. I mean, she's got grounds to go after him if it's not true. And he's just talking out of his ass. He's got a lot to lose, man. You would think. Anyway. Here's another article related to it. He's associated with Chris Whitcomb, by the way, so who wrote that book. So it's almost like they co-wrote the book. Because what I'm gathering from it, a lot of the book has to do with Brent Turvey's analysis of the crime scene. So I don't, Chris Whitcomb put his name on it, but Brent Turvey, it sounds like, had a lot to do with it. So they're partners for sure. So, and this article, indicates that. But let's just read the whole article just to get a notion of what's going on here. So, Hoeberger defense team makes first statement since sentencing scolds own expert. Lawyers for convicted killer Brian Hoeberger have taken aim at a forensic scientist hired to help in their client's defense at his Idaho murder trial, asserting in their first statement since he pleaded guilty last summer that the expert witness violated a standing confidentiality agreement. Attorney Ann Taylor, joined by public defenders Alyssa Massoth and Bicka Barlow, alleged that recent public statements by defense expert Brent Turvey, including earlier this month to the Idaho Statesman, falls outside of the ethical and legal norms that are applied to experts in criminal cases. Among a host of experts, Turvey was hired by Hoeberger's attorneys late into their handling of the closely watched case solely to provide an opinion about the crime scene, nothing else, they wrote. He signed a confidentiality agreement on October 30th, 2024, which the defense said remains in effect today. The agreement with Mr. Turvey was crystal clear that all materials, as well as any opinions that he developed as an expert, were to be kept confidential, Hoeberger's defense wrote in the statement sent to the Statesman. Mr. Turvey has not been released from his confidentiality agreement and is now speaking about topics that are still confidential, many of which are outside of his areas of expertise. In response to a prior interview request, Turvey provided the Statesman with a previously unreleased photo of a police evidence bag. He said it showed the police chain of custody for a key piece of evidence in the case was insufficient and would have been challenged at trial. Hoeberger pleaded guilty last year to the November 2022 stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students, and a trial never took place. Moscow Police Chief Anthony Dollinger and legal experts in Idaho, unassociated with the high-profile murder case, told the Statesman that Turvey's allegations were unfounded and would not have resulted in the knife sheath found at the Moscow crime scene, nor the DNA located on it being excluded at trial. Turvey also is thanked and features in a new book about the Moscow homicides case called Broken Plea by Christopher Whitcomb, a former FBI agent who did not work on the case. The book hit shelves Tuesday. Imagine that. And the timing of all this. Imagine the timing of all this, of Turvey coming out just before that book. And then now all the interviews he's been doing. Wonder why. The defense team is appalled by Mr. Turvey's behavior and his release of documents and information that he knows are confidential, Hoeberger's defense team wrote. His reliability should be seen through the lens of this conduct. Well, Anne, the Hoebergers, the cult of Hoeberger, they don't give a whit about reliability, okay? Or integrity. You should say integrity. They don't give a whit about integrity. On Tuesday, in an interview with the Statesman, Turvey rejected his former contract employer's accusations. He said the state already has released almost everything he's talked about and called the defense team's claims about him a deflection away from issues with the case after questions have continued to be raised about inconsistencies in the investigation and the decisions that led to Hoeberger's plea deal. You know, folks, I say this about this. It's not your job, Brent Turvey, to bring this all out into the public, and it's not Chris Whitcomb's job to do it either. It's Brian Hoeberger's job. If Brian Hoeberger always felt so strongly about it, it was his job to communicate this. Not yours. Not some indirect mouthpiece. His job. His job. And yet he divulged nothing to the New York Times, but he'll let you guys do it apparently, huh? And like I said, you're not helping him. And nor are any of these slugs, trolls, followers of these content creators. So the bottom line is, in my 30 years, I've never divulged confidential or case-sensitive material that was outside my realm or outside my anything, Turvey said by phone. Nothing that I shared was not already public or at least provided in discovery that was actually data dumped by law enforcement in Idaho. Rarely has Turvey chosen to speak with media unless asked to do so by a client, he added. This case is different, he said. This is an extraordinary case with extraordinary types of exculpatory evidence that were not being brought to light, Turvey said, referencing items and information that allegedly could disprove Hoeberger's guilt. And so that's a big claim right there, mister. All right? That's a big claim. All right? And so that's the reason for the discussion with Whitcomb, because so much stuff was being misstated and buried and not talked about by both sides. He challenged Taylor and her team to point to specific violations of the confidentiality agreement he signed because nothing he has said reveals attorney-client privileged information or would cause harm to their client, Turvey said. That's his opinion once again. I couldn't possibly guess what's in her head, he told the statesman. You'd have to ask her to be specific, and if she's too specific, she can get herself into a lot of trouble. So there you have it. So that was 4 months ago. But 5 months ago, I ran this down. 5 months ago, he was singing another tune. At least according to this, he was. Here's your hero. Here's your hero, soon to be a traitor and kicked to the curb. But I would surmise always a traitor. This article accurately describes my findings in this case, but omits the essential evidentiary foundation. Of note, now get this, read that again. This article accurately describes my findings in this case, but omits the essential evidentiary foundation. Of note, People magazine received my report and did not reach out for comment. However, they did accurately quote the prosecutor, who was unable to disagree with the majority of my findings. So here's the article. Hold on to your seats. The bodies of Madison, he said he agrees with the article. It describes perfectly his findings in the case. So here it is. The bodies of Madison Mogen and Kaylee Gonsalves were possibly posed by Brian Hoeberger after he stabbed the two to death. Once again, let me read that for you. Let me read this first. This article accurately describes my findings in this case. And then we go to the bodies of Madison Mogen and Kaylee Gonsalves were possibly posed by Brian Hoeberger after he stabbed the two to death. Wow. We don't need another hero. Evidence at the scene, including the spread of Gonsalves' blood across a pillow, supports this theory that was first posited by a defense expert, Brent Turvey. Hoeberger stabbed Gonsalves at least 24 times in the face and Mogen 13 times in the face before both died of multiple sharp force injuries. Autopsy reports for Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogen support the notion that Brian Hoeberger posed the two young women together after their brutal murders, according to a newly unsealed filing from the prosecutors for the case of the 2022 quadruple murders in Moscow, Idaho. Dr. Brent Turvey, the crime scene expert for the defense, first posited this theory after reviewing the autopsy reports, according to the filing. The evidence suggests that after both victims were killed or unresponsive, they were posed in their shared bed. Kaylee was moved from a position with her head on her pillow to partially atop of Madison. Then the comforter was placed over both of them. Turvey said of the crime scene, according to the filing. The theory was based on the location of Gonsalves' blood on the pillow, which prosecutors had argued did not support that the bodies were posed, only that they moved. Prosecutors called Turvey's theory a possibility, but not a determination, noting in the filing that the blood could have spread because Gonsalves moved during the attack or after suffering a blow to the head. Furthermore, argued prosecutors, it would be impossible to know what the true intentions of the killer were, even if the two were moved. The two girls were in Mogen's room and sharing her bed as Gonsalves had moved out of the house and was visiting for the weekend. The autopsy report determined that both young women died from multiple sharp force injuries, with Mogen suffering 28 stab wounds and Gonsalves being stabbed at least 38 times. Additional contributors to Gonsalves' death, including blunt force injuries of the head and aphyxial injuries. There were also punctures on the outer table of the skull, injuries to the teeth and tongue, and a hemorrhage into the chest cavity, according to the filing. Good God, it was brutal. It was also noted that neither of the girls had blood on the bottoms or the tops of their feet, indicating they were not upright or moving about the area at the time during the attack. Now, that speaks precisely to Dylan's witness testimony about saying she heard Kaylee run down the stairs and say somebody's here and then go into the bathroom and cry and sob. I've always said this about witness testimony. It's just unreliable. Okay, it's absolutely unreliable, and that proves it right there. That Dylan testimony is not accurate, so it's unreliable. Because according to the science, Kaylee was not up running around, and running from Brian Hoeberger. So now some may refute this and say, well, he didn't say it was exactly Brian Hoeberger, but I will say he did actually, because he had a duty. If he believed that Brian Hoeberger was truly innocent at this point, 5 months ago, he would have said, the article accurately describes my findings in the case, sans me concluding it was Brian Hoeberger. But he doesn't caveat that. He just endorses the article. So he had a, if he truly has a strong opinion related to Brian Hoeberger's innocence, he would have said it here. He would have said, this article accurately describes my findings, with the exception that I don't note that it's Brian Hoeberger in my findings. I note it as just being the perpetrator or perpetrators. He should have said that here if he felt strongly about Brian Hoeberger's innocence, but he didn't. He just endorses the article effectively, and in the article they say it's Brian Hoeberger that posed the victims. And this is what I meant about his bias, okay? So his bias right here. This right here. Dr. Turvey's casework. Involves sexual assault, false allegations, shooting, incident reconstruction, serial rapes and serial homicides, mass homicides, sexual homicides, domestic homicides, staged crime scenes, human trafficking, racial profiling, and other violent crime-related issues. This comprises his biased stance, okay? So when he goes into a crime scene, he's viewing it through this lens already. And so you get him saying this about the victims being posed, okay? You get that. When the prosecution actually had a great response to that. And they said, even if the bodies were moved, you cannot know why they were moved. You can't say that they were moved because they were posed to be in a certain way and then therefore imply some kind of sexuality to that. You can't. There's no way to prove that what the perpetrator intended by moving the bodies if they were moved. It could have been something you never even considered. But no, because he's biased, he's going to consider they were posed. They were moved, therefore they were posed. Now, the prosecution's not even saying they were moved. They're saying it's possible they were moved. But there's no way to determine that. Not from what he's presenting. So it's possible, but not, that's not exact. It's not for sure. And then they're saying even if they were moved, you can't say they were moved because they were posed necessarily. But his bias makes him say otherwise. So he's a biased person, folks. And in this case, I believe he's biased because he and Chris Whitcomb want to sell this book. They're hacks. They want to sell this book. So yeah, there's your hero. The hero who will soon be kicked to the curb. I don't know soon, but year. Give it a year, maybe 2 years, kicked to the curb. I'll be waiting for it. I will be waiting for it. Meanwhile, I'm sure they'll all feast on him. They'll puff him up. They'll love him. But he will disappoint as all others have as well. Anyway, that's it. I think that's it. Is that all I had? Yeah, that's it. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.